This is the refreshed Range Rover Velar. In case you've missed it, in 2023, 6 years after its debut, the compact Range Rover was given a subtle facelift. So we've got different day running lights motif, similar thing in the rear. There's a new steering wheel, a new screen. Thank you, see you next week. Click subscribe, click the bell, etc. Let's be serious. While Range Rover was redesigning the screen, most of the competition has launched new generations of their models in this segment. Does it mean the Velar is now outdated, or maybe this was deliberate? Let's check it out. I compared the Range Rover Velar against the Volvo XC60. Channel members can watch this review early and without ads. The Range Rover Velar debuted in 2017. From a distance, you might think it's a raised wagon like the Volvo V90 Cross Country or the Audi A6 Allroad, but up close, it turns out to be an SUV with large wheels and air suspension lowered for easier access. Start the engine and the car rises to its ride height with ground clearance of 205mm in standard setting and up to 252mm in off-road mode. Many SUVs today have ground clearance of less than 200mm, but most SUVs are mainly used on school runs, and the Range Rover Velar has off-road pedigree. It's capable of handling rougher roads, mud and sand. Of course, everything is within the limits of the tires, the capabilities of the vehicle's off-road systems, and the driver's skill set. Here I should say a few words about the off-road settings. Those of you who remember the pre-facelift Velar have probably noticed the new cockpit layout without the bottom screen, where climate and drive mode settings used to be. Now everything is done up here on this top screen on the dash. By default, the car is in automatic mode, which gives you some flexibility when entering a more challenging terrain. However, I recommend you stop in a safe place, choose the off-road mode, and then adjust the off-road mode to whatever conditions, whatever the surface is. Even if the mode doesn't raise the ground clearance by itself, I suggest you go into the ride height and raise it manually to avoid hitting something when going over rougher terrain, and then the car will do most of the hard work for you. Of course, the further off-road you go, the more you'll have to lean on tires with more aggressive tread, and maybe you'll have to air down as well for better traction on muddy, slippery surfaces. But something tells me you'll probably never going to drive the Velar off-road, much less follow my advice. In any case, as you can see, the Velar handles this sandy hill without any major problems, although at the time of recording the sand was cold, slightly damp and compacted. I suspect in the summer on dry and loose sand I'd have to air down to keep the momentum going up the hill. Now back to the changes mentioned at the beginning. From the outside I noticed a few differences compared to the pre-facelift model. The headlights and taillights now have lines instead of oval light signatures. At the rear, the exhaust tips are now hidden, unlike in the pre-facelift models where they were loud and proud. And the door handles. In the early Velar, you had to press the button on the door handle to make it pop out or unlock the doors with a key fob. Now the door handles extend and the car unlocks as I approach the car with the key. I couldn't find an option in the infotainment system to disable proximity locking and unlocking, so I assume the engineers decided most customers would use it anyway. I also assume reprogramming the car for proximity access was easier and cheaper than moving the gesture control sensors for the tailgate from behind the rear wheels, where they're located, to somewhere more usual, like under the middle of the rear bumper, like in any other car. The manufacturer claims the boot volume is approximately 750 liters, but JLR quotes the figure to the roof, not to the window line. My calculations indicate that the volume from the floor to the window line is approximately 450 liters. Although the drop behind the sill has disappeared, there is now a drop above the seats when the second row backrests are folded. There is a styrofoam insert under the floor, but there is no space for the cargo cover. There are handles to drop the second row backrests. It splits 40-20-40. There are also 4 shopping bag hooks, buttons for lowering the loading sill, and for extending the optional tow hitch. You can close the tailgate using a button on the lid. There is no separate button to lock the car because it locks as you depart with the key anyway. The doors cover the sills, which combined with the easy access suspension makes the Velar very easy to get in and out of for short and average height people. Not everyone has the legs or the wallet for a Range Rover Sport or the full-size Range Rover, and no one has nothing to do with the other. Correlation is not causation, and I'll stick to that. The backrest angle is electrically adjustable. There are tight door pockets, controls for 2 rear climate zones, an armrest with cup holders, and behind it 2 USB-C ports. Why behind the armrest? The designers likely looked at what they had achieved in the rear and decided that with the console so far back, there was definitely no way anyone would really sit in the middle. Besides that, there's enough legroom and headroom for me. I'm 175 centimeters tall and the driver's seat is set to my driving position. But I have short legs, so the driver's seat is set far enough for me. ISOFIX anchor points are only on the 2 rear seats. The biggest change up front is the new infotainment display, which now controls almost everything related to multimedia, comfort and driving modes, almost everything, because thankfully Range Rover kept physical buttons for seat memory and seat settings as well. And the steering wheel heating button is on the steering wheel, not buried somewhere in climate control settings. The infotainment system menu looks familiar. The biggest changes are in the location of the temperature and drive modes here on the side. They're on the sliders, and yeah, it's pretty intuitive. Now, a word of advice, when using the seat heaters, they are very, very effective even on the lowest setting. However, the steering wheel takes much longer to warm up than, say, in a BMW or a Volvo. The steering wheel buttons have been changed. The idea of displaying different virtual buttons in the same place depending on the vehicle's functions has been dropped, and that's for the best. There are spacious door pockets, good cup holders, a small storage compartment under the armrest, and the glove box is also on the small side. Instead of the lower display and the storage compartment behind it, there is now a lot of flat, empty space with a cubby containing a wireless charger. It's not very powerful and seems to drop the connection all the time. Next to it is a small recess, but it's finished in hard plastic, so if you put your keys in there or maybe coins, they're going to rattle. The seats are almost comfortable, almost, because there is no headrest angle adjustment and the headrest is tilted too far forward for my liking. To compensate, I have to recline the backrests more than I normally would. The materials are pleasant to touch, but for a car priced at over 100,000 euro, the interior configuration options are modest at best. Ambient lighting is not enough to lift things up. The Range Rover Velar is currently available with 4 engine options. There is a 2-liter diesel with 200 horsepower, a 3-liter diesel with 300 horsepower, a 3-liter 400 horsepower petrol engine, and a 400 horsepower plug-in hybrid with a 2-liter petrol engine and a pathetic zero emissions range of up to 63 kilometers. So realistically, you're left with the 3-liter D300 diesel like in this test car. Claimed fuel economy is 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers combined. Getting less than 9 is good, and dropping it below 8.5 is great. With a 68-liter fuel tank, this gives an autonomy of 750 to 800 kilometers without much sacrifice. Range Rover says the Velar with this engine will do 0 to 100 km per hour in 6.5 seconds. This is exactly what I got in dynamic mode, and I was 0.4 of a second slower in comfort mode. A 0 to 100 km per hour time of 6-7 seconds is nothing to write home about these days. That's compact hot hatch territory. What's more important, especially for a 2+ ton SUV, is real-life power delivery. And the 3-liter 300 horsepower diesel engine in the Velar has grunt even in comfort mode without switching to sport mode on the gearbox or anywhere. You stomp the gas and the car lurches forward. Now, this used to be normal, but in the era where we're constantly monitoring every gram of CO2 released into the atmosphere, Range Rover's old-school approach to customer values is commendable. If you really want to save the planet and conserve the road infrastructure, buy a 2.5-ton electric car and... No, wait. The suspension is excellent and absorbs bumps perfectly. In sport mode, it also minimizes body roll during fast cornering. The interior is quiet, partly thanks to the active noise cancellation system, which isolates you from the plebs outside who apparently rent rooms in shared apartments and don't even have their own swimming pool, let alone a parking space next to a lift. Range Rover also made it convenient to disable anything that might upset your inner balance, such as ESA. 2 clicks of a button on the steering wheel activates a personal mode where you can configure what remains active and what doesn't. The driver's assistance systems are okay-ish, though not as good as those of the German competition. Visibility is terrible, especially around the A-pillars. Be careful when approaching intersections and pedestrian crossings. And when maneuvering around parking lots, use the excellent 360 camera system. Prices of the refreshed Range Rover Velar start at €72,200. This test example with options costs €111,530. Bearing in mind that the 2 Velars I reviewed in the past with similar spec cost even more, and we've had inflation along the way, the Range Rover Velar is currently cheaper than it used to be. And that's great news. The Range Rover Velar hasn't changed much over the years, and from my perspective, that's a good thing, as many car makers focus on making their cars too digital. The question remains whether there are enough like-minded people out there, preferably with long legs and thick wallets, to allow Range Rover to keep things old school. And how do you like the refreshed Range Rover Velar or the pre-facelift Range Rover Velar? Who cares, they're all the same. Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.